Sunday morning, and I'm going to be doing another live broadcast. I hope you tuned in to get some great information on some of the things you can do in lawn care. It's going to help make your yard look good, and you're not going to have to spend a lot of money. And that's my biggest thing about doing this channel at this point. I first started doing it to do more information about my McLean lawnmower, because when I got it, and I know I've gone over this before, there wasn't a lot of information out on the internet. I looked up a few things to try to figure out how to do some adjusting and some regular maintenance and stuff like that, and I just couldn't find it. So I decided I was going to just do some videos on how I fixed this. I talked to McLean about fixing and doing some adjusting and stuff like that, and I have an update about that information, some of that information I learned, and I just learned how to do it myself. But now, there's a couple guys out there that have their, YouTube and their TikTok channels. This guy in Dallas and stuff like that, which is great because he does great videos. I may not be a great video person, I may not be a great YouTube type person, but my main thing is just my McLean. And then I learned that a lot of information that we're getting is just wrong. And today I'm going to have another episode where I give you facts about just things that you're being told on YouTube channels that are absolutely wrong, and you're spending a lot of money you shouldn't be spending. Now, if you want to spend the money, you can spend the money. All these products that people tell you to use, fine to use. They're not going to do any harm to you, and that's kind of the thing. They know they're not going to hurt your lawn, but they're sponsors and they're getting money from it. Anyways, I'm going to do another tinfoil turf grass. I was off for a couple of weeks. I was on vacation. We drove down to California, and I had a lot of time to think about some things, and I was watching a lot of videos, and I wasn't going to do this. But after seeing an episode on this guy's YouTube channel last week, I decided I'm just going to go ahead and do it. People need to know I'm not here to be liked or anything like that. I'm just trying to give information. If the truth hurts, the truth hurts. So I don't know how to start other than saying this guy we're going to talk about today is got a lot of bad, just gives lots of bad information. I do these on the fly, so I'm just trying to work my way through everything. Just want to do a little opening to let some people, get on and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a professional. I had to learn all this stuff on my own. I've only been doing my yard for the last 3 years, and I basically renovated it every year for the past 3 years. I mean, look at it right there. It looks great. I have Kentucky bluegrass and I have bent grass. I have a putting green. I low mow. And that's another thing I like to talk about is low mowing. Low mowing makes your yard look great. And I have people all the time coming up to me and, is that real? And I'm not here bragging about my lawn, because my lawn is just okay. It's not the greatest thing in the world. I know it looks nice to a lot of people, but I could use a lot of improvements. I have problem areas. I'm having some issues on my putting green that I'm not really happy with right now, so I'm going to make some changes on that. But I am not a professional, and I learned all this on the fly. And the one thing that I learned and I got frustrated about was being lied to. These guys on these YouTube channels, this one guy, he talks about, positivity and, positive vibes and, all this stuff and all this, whatever. What, to me, positivity is about the truth and saving money. If you're not doing those two things, you're not creating any positivity to me, you're creating negativity to me. You know, I spend $70, $80 for fertilizer for 2 years. And I just bought a new bag of some iron. And I'll talk about that, I'm sure. But positivity to me is not being lied to and told a bunch of crap. And that's what this guy we're going to talk about today is all about. I mean, I edited this video to just pull out some information. And you know what? I ended up with this big, long 30-minute just clips. And I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm only going to do probably a third of it today because it just everything he talked about was just wrong and BS. So I'm going to go over that. And then I have some good test things I'm going to do, some iron. I got some McLean stuff. You know, I got all kinds of stuff going on. So I thought what I'd do is I've already started doing this. I was going to mix this dirt. I have it all right here ready to go. And I just wanted to show you, you know, to test your pH at home for your soil. You know, to me, soil is important. I've talked about this before because the moss out here is crazy. So what I have is I have a scale here, and I'm just going to take a minute to do this. And I'm going to measure out 50 grams of soil. And I've already measured out 2 others. I just wanted to do one right in front of you. And I'm going to get this brew in here so we can test this pH. This is just dry soil. I have front yard sample, backyard sample, and I have my neighbor Wilson's. I have a sample from his yard. And I've let this sit out to dry. So it's not too wet. I went a little over there. So I measured 50 grams of dirt, just 50 grams. That's just the number I chose. You could do 100 grams, you could do 200 grams, you could do 10 grams, you could do whatever you want. I did 50 grams just because it's a good round number. I don't know. So I did 50 grams. And now I'm going to do 50 grams of deionized water. Oh man, my scooper here is leaking. That's not good. So I guess I'll do it this way. So 50 grams of water. Deionized. Almost there. Okay, so I got 100 grams of water, 100 grams of dirt. I'm going to stir it up. And I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to measure my other water out here just to, I think I'm just going to pour this. So there's other things that are important about, you know, pH and measuring your pH. You know, it's not a huge major thing, but you know, for moss, low pH, you know, in the 5s, even the 4s, the lower you get, the stronger the environment is for moss to grow. And that's my biggest problem out here. Now, there's other things as far as nutrient uptake. You have some nutrients that, you know, if you're spreading iron, did you know that some iron, depending upon what kind of chelated product is used on it, you know, it won't even become soluble in your soil if your soil's the wrong pH. And I'm not going to get into that today. We've talked about a bunch of things with iron and stuff like that. So I have a comparison I'm going to do. Anyways, so these are going. I'm going to just let them sit here. I'm going to put my pH meter in my water to kind of get it tempered so it's ready to go. It's got to sit for 30 minutes. We're going to let it sit for 30 minutes, and we're going to come back and check it. So that's pH testing. I just have a simple pH meter I got on Amazon. It's like $25. It has calibration material and all that kind of stuff, so you can keep it going, and it works really, really good. Okay, so that's going. We'll come back to that later. So my tinfoil turf grass, we're going to jump right into that. There is a lot of information that is going to come out of this video that's going to educate you and help you understand a lot of things. There's some deep discussion, explanations of certain things. I try to cut it down to make it as small as possible, but the information is really important. So a couple of these explanations are maybe a minute or two long. And like I said, I tried to keep them as short as possible. I'm trying to keep everything in context, but the information is really important to you. So it helps you understand why a lot of the information that you're getting is just not accurate. So before we go on, so that is a SpaceX rocket launch. I grew up in Lompoc, California, which is where Vandenberg Air Force Base is, which is where SpaceX launched their rockets from. And on our vacation, we went down there, and we got lucky, and we got to witness one. Well, we got to hear one. So I also want to show you here, I got my new flag. It's a 4x6 flag. My last one was 3x5. I got a bigger one because, I'm a proud American. So I just wanted to show that off first thing here. I'm really proud of my flagpole I put in. All my neighbors love it. I get compliments all the time. It's a great addition. I have people asking me how hard it was to install. So that's my new flag. Got it just for 4th of July. And, I'm just thankful. And I know this isn't Thanksgiving or anything like that, but I am a proud American. Okay, here we go. We're going to start this, and it's just going to start right off and start talking. And like I said, I'm only going to try to go through the first maybe 10 minutes of this video, and then we'll move on to other things.
If you go to this website, and I don't know who did this. I know I saw it. I believe it was on the Grass Factor. I could be wrong. If you go to that link, you'll learn all about all the lovely things that this particular gentleman has been a part of. And it's not a hearsay. It's not some conspiracy. He pleaded guilty to a felony. And my take on this might be a little different than...
Okay, kind of a weird way to start out a video, but there's a purpose behind this. So you can actually go to yardbra.com right now if you want to, and you can find out what he's talking about. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not, it is what it is. I've read it. I've looked at it, and yes, it's true. And my first suspect about this guy was, he never says his name. And I always thought that was kind of weird. I mean, my name's Chris. I mean, no big deal. I'm Chris. So I always wondered how come he never said his name, even in communications, in his email and stuff like that. He's never really ever said his name. But anyways, some really important information about this guy, yardbra.com. You may want to know, a little bit about this guy. that's giving you all this information. And, on top of that, a lot of his information is just wrong. So here we go.
And than the average person, I think. I don't know. But I'm going to say this particular gentleman's situation is recidivism is a big problem. Big problem in the United States and around the world. Huge problem. And I'm a believer that if you committed the crime and you served your time, you paid your penance, then so be it. Let's get these people back into society and working, and because they're going to be a part of our society, and we need them employed. We need them to be hopefully repaired and, functioning members of our society. So I'm all for that. However, that doesn't mean I'm going to stick my daughter or my family in a car with you. Okay? Let's get on with the show.
Like I said, I just wanted to start out with the information. Who is this guy?
Today's episode of Tinfoil Turfgrass comes from Yard Bra.
At the end of the day, I like using products that work together very well, and it works. So it obviously works. This is the best my lawn has ever looked to date, and I've been doing this YouTube channel for almost 3 years now.
Yeah, so that's the fallacy. Of course, it's the post hoc ergo prop hoc fallacy, but that's not the name I'm going to talk about tonight. I may end up waiting until the end of the video and going over it because I want to go over it in detail. But in the meantime, you guys can look up the affirming the consequent, and that is a formal fallacy, very similar to the post hoc ergo prop hoc fallacy, meaning like he's doing this, and if I do this, then this is what's going to happen. And then you see what happens, and then you go, okay, well, that's what happened, and therefore what I did caused it. And it's very, very difficult to get around. Even scientists, even very knowledgeable, educated people in this world, even attorneys, whoever, very knowledgeable people, it's very difficult to kind of get over that position. It's a formal fallacy because the structure of the argument is flawed itself. So you have premise one, doing this will cause that. Premise two is, I see this. And then because you see this, therefore the first premise is true. And make a long story short, both premises are true, but just because one is true and the other is true doesn't mean that one caused the other. That's a horrible explanation. I'm sorry. I did a horrible job explaining that, but I'll get to it later too. Oh, I did it and I saw the results. And therefore, what I did caused those results. I did. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've been doing it for ages and ages. And many people do it, and it's not easy to kind of get over that. You have to recognize first that it's a flaw in reasoning. You can't. What you did might have caused that, but you can't say because what you did and what you saw, you're claiming what. It's a
sorry about
formal
that.
fallacy.
Didn't realize
it's actually measuring
I think
it.
you got the point.
Measure it, and we can. Variables, other confounding factors. But the average person on YouTube is not going to do that. They're going to go, hey, I do this, and what you're going to see is this, and therefore, you should buy my stuff. Yeah.
This is the mollycoddle weekly version. I live and die by this stuff, guys. This is Lawn Supply Company by the big dog, Ryan Nora. I've been using this since the beginning of times. Ever since I started reel mowing and spoon feeding, this is the product. This is a triple 18 fertilizer, well-rounded fertilizer.
So the 18-18-18, I didn't know Ryan made that. I guess that's one of his products. I don't know. So the 18-18-18, I would never use this product, just so you know. Unless I take that back. I would never use it unless I had a phosphorus deficiency. The reason I say I wouldn't use it is because it has such a high amount of phosphorus relative to everything else. This product probably, I don't know for sure, I don't know every state law. It's probably not legal to apply in many states. I'm trying to zoom in on the label here. But the label it's an 18-18-18 with boron and copper, which you'll never see a response to either one of those. Manganese, which is possible, that is possible to see a response to manganese, especially as a foliar. And then molybdenum and zinc. Probably the only response you're ever going to see to zinc is a negative response. There's almost no positive responses to zinc in the literature. There are a couple of responses of toxicities to zinc in the turfgrass literature, but I'm not aware of any positive responses.
Okay, just briefly. So in case you don't know who this guy is, this is Travis Shaddix. It's Dr. Travis Shaddix. So doctor because he has a doctorate in soil science. Probably one of the smartest people when it comes to soil, what you put in your soil, how your soil reacts to it. And he's done lots of studies with turf grass. And this is why I watch him, because this is what he talks about. He talks about the science behind what you're putting in your lawn, how your grass reacts to it, and all that kind of stuff. He's going to be giving you a great explanation as to why this product and phosphorus and potassium in general do not need to be applied to your lawn. And this is probably the most important thing. Also, I kind of stepped on him. What he was saying is this product is probably illegal in most states. In Washington, highly restricted. You know, you're not just supposed to use it willy-nilly. And this is one of the things that I talking about when talking about the responsibility of YouTubers. This guy is so irresponsible in telling you that you need to apply this product to your lawn once a month, which is ridiculous. And you're going to find out why that's ridiculous here in a second. But this is why these products are being more and more regulated. They're regulating the use of fertilizers more and more every year. Every legislative session, these guys are going deeper and deeper into regulating the fertilizers you want to put on your lawn. And all I'm trying to say here is we need to be responsible as people. You know, I love living in this country because we're free. But you know what? People like this and other YouTubers that talk about products without telling you or advising you what you might be doing might be illegal in your state. I mean, Florida has really strong restrictions on phosphorus. And there's another tinfoil turf grass that I'm going to probably get into about another guy who's telling you to apply phosphorus against the label's recommendations. He's telling you to apply it stronger than what the label recommends. And this is what really aggravates me and irritates me about what I was learning when I first wanted to start having a nice lawn, was just all these lies and all these things. And I said it before, I know there's no phosphorus police. So I'll just move on here, because this explanation he's going to give is going to be, you know, worth $1 million.
The zinc, you are greatly over applying phosphorus and potassium. But in the literature, we can go and look and figure out what are the concentrations of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, iron, manganese, all these things in the turfgrass tissue. And it talks about nitrogen-driven nutrient uptake and how the nutrient uptake in turfgrass is driven by nitrogen. So where I'm going with this is the percentage, or the concentration, I should say, in the turfgrass tissue of phosphorus and potassium relative to nitrogen is for the most part not going to change. Let's say the nitrogen was at 4%, and then the potassium would be at 2%. The phosphorus is going to be what would that be? I'm trying to do the math in my head. It's going to be a 2-to-1 N to K in the tissue, and it's going to be about a 4-to-1 N to P in the tissue. So the phosphorus is going to be like 0.2% or 0.3% or something. I should have these numbers up. Wasn't prepared to kind of go over this. But the point is the concentrations are going to be basically the same. I mean, relative to each other. So if you're going to put more nitrogen on, there's going to be a little bit more nitrogen in the tissue than the phosphorus and potassium. There's going to be a little bit more phosphorus and potassium in the tissue. But they're not really going to change that much relative to the others. Okay, so if we you can disagree with that if you want to, but just for the sake of conversation tonight, if you want to assume that that's true, that the N, the P, the K, and the iron and everything else, give or take, within some tolerance level, they're basically going to be the same. The only thing that's going to change is the growth rate of the grass based upon the nitrogen that you apply. And when the growth rate goes up, the mass of the nutrients that are taken up by the soil is going to go up because the tissue mass is going to increase. But the concentration in the tissue, for the most part, is going to be about the same as it was. Okay? You wouldn't need to apply anything more than a 2-to-1 N to K or a 4:1:2 NPK ratio. So 4 parts nitrogen, 1 part phosphorus, and 2 parts potassium. You wouldn't need to apply anything more than that because that's all the turfgrass is going to take up. It's never going to take up twice as much potassium as it would nitrogen. It's never going to take up 4 times as much phosphorus as it would nitrogen. It's never going to do that. It's not possible to have equal amounts of phosphorus and nitrogen in turfgrass tissue. It's never going to happen because you're going to apply more and more nitrogen. It's just going to make the grass grow more and more and more. and more phosphorus and more potassium is going to be taken up. There's no question about that. The mass of phosphorus and the mass of potassium is going to increase, but the concentration relative to nitrogen that you applied is going to be the same. Dozens and dozens of companies make 1200s. There's absolutely nothing.
All right, he's moving on to the next one. So I just wanted to stop real quick and make sure, I know he got really technical in his explanation. He's a scientist, he's a doctor. This is his business to know this kind of information. And when I heard this explanation here, to me, it made a lot of sense. Now, did I understand it the first time I heard it? No, I had to listen to it a couple of times. I mean, I watch his videos sometimes 2 and 3 times just to absorb the information, because he talks really deeply about a lot of things. And I cut that up. He probably gave a 10-minute explanation about just this product. And he did like an 1.5-hour review on this video. And everything in it is just gold as far as disproving what this guy's doing. Now, that's not to say some of the stuff this guy does isn't good. There are things he does that are good, because there are basic things that you can do in your yard that are going to make some changes. We're going to talk about that. Anyways, his basic bottom line here was, you can add as much phosphorus as you want. Your grass is not going to take up any more of a percentage of phosphorus than the amount of nitrogen that you have soluble in your soil. So you can add 18, 18, 18 all day long. All you're doing is putting too much phosphorus down. Your soil is not going to absorb it. Well, it's going to absorb it. It's going to sit there. It's going to run off, and it's going to do all these things that, legislations, stress out about it getting into the soil, into the water ground, into the streams, into the rivers, into the sound, the oceans, whatever. So this is why I wanted to make sure you understood why doing a lot of these things, you just don't need to. And, whether you care about the environment or not, that's not the point here. I don't want to be told I can't be using something, or I got to hire a professional to come in and fertilize my lawn, because we're not responsible enough to do it ourselves. So just remember that. Doesn't matter how much phosphorus you put down, if there isn't the nitrogen to help make it be more soluble to the turf grass, it's just a waste. And like you said, it's a 4:1:2 ratio of how the plant reacts to the fertilizers. So we're going to move on here.
Wrong with it. You would definitely see a good response from this applied at the right rate. The issue I have is that these products have iron glucoheptanate and manganese glucoheptanate in them, and they're marketed as chelated iron. So if I were to apply this product, or if I would consider using a product like this, I would, I don't apply liquids, but if I had a program or I wanted to apply liquid fertilizer, I might actually consider applying a product like a 1200, like this particular product I would consider applying it. But don't have any delusions. You're not applying a soil chelate when you apply iron glucoheptanate or manganese glucoheptanate. Glucoheptanate, unfortunately, by APCO definitions, is a chelate, and it may have some value in terms of the blending in the jug, in its solubility through your screens and through the nozzles and so forth. There may be some value there. I'm not a solution chemist, so I don't know. And it may have some value in terms of staining. It may reduce the staining potential of this product. I don't know about that. But when it hits the soil, which is why a lot of people would buy a chelate. I'm going to buy a chelate to maintain the solubility of this manganese and iron in the solution, or increase the greening. When it's that doesn't exist. And I've gone over that paper before. It's called Solubility of Iron, Manganese, and Magnesium Sulfates and Glucoheptanates. You can go back and look at the channel, or just Google that, Solubility of Iron, Manganese, and Magnesium Glucoheptanates in 12 soils, or something like that. And there's almost no doubt. I mean, I would say no doubt, but I'm a scientist. I can't say no doubt. But I mean, pragmatically speaking, there's zero question. Those glucoheptanates have no soil chelation ability at all. So buy the 1200, apply it. You're going to see probably a very good response to a product like this. There's very little doubt in my mind. But just don't buy it based upon, oh, I'm buying a chelate, because you're not buying a soil chelate when you buy a product like this, okay? The next part, we continue in this video.
Right here is the Lawn Star Iron. Again, I'm not a scientist.
So Lawn Star Iron is a 6% sugar-based chelator. Oh, it says iron sulfate chelated with sodium glucoheptanate. So yeah, it's also iron glucoheptanate. This product will almost undoubtedly turn your grass green. There's virtually no question about it if you apply it at the right labeled rate. But again, it is not a chelate. It's not a soil chelate like EDTA, DTPA, or EDDHA, or there's many other chelates as well, not just those three, but those three are kind of staples in our industry. Glucoheptanate, polysaccharides, even iron citrate. These products have virtually no soil chelation ability at all. And that's all in that paper. Go and look at those papers that I've gone over before. Adding macros and micros. There are, besides iron and manganese, with two micronutrients, besides iron and manganese, I don't know of any bona fide response to any micronutrient other than those two. And you can apply those as liquid. But if you're going to apply them as granular, you only have one option. And for manganese sulfate, you can apply that. You can't apply any granular iron unless it's chelated, but that's so expensive. It's kind of pointless to do it that way. But if you're going to spray out micronutrients, just make sure they contain iron and manganese, and you're wasting pretty much all your money on everything else. So and there are products out there that just have iron sulfate and manganese sulfate, or you can do the iron chelates and manganese chelates in those as well and reduce your staining potential. But anything else I'm just going to buy one micronutrient blend. Anything else in there is just waste. You're not. I mean, you could be harming some things in the world of zinc. There could be some harm that you're applying micronutrients with high zinc. It could cause some problems. But you're probably not hurting anything by applying this other stuff agronomically. You're just hurting your pocketbook because you're buying these things. You're not getting anything out of it. You're applying these 18-18-18s and 13-13-13s and 20-20-20s. You're just wasting a ton of money. It's probably illegal if you're doing it granular in some states with the phosphorus. You can't apply that much phosphorus in many states. But if you're spraying them out, I mean, there's a chance you're hurting some stuff by applying that much potassium. I've gone over that before. Potassium has more of a chance to harm your grass than help your grass. With phosphorus, I'm personally not overly concerned about phosphorus movement because it just sticks wherever it goes. But the legislatures in our states have seen things differently, and they restrict a lot of that phosphorus application. So I wouldn't be applying a lot of macronutrients that have high phosphorus in them. And I wouldn't be wasting my time putting a lot of macronutrients that have a lot of potassium in them unless I had a bona fide phosphorus deficiency or a bona fide potassium deficiency. Maryland is a...
So I'm going to go ahead and stop this part here. Those are some of the key things I wanted to get out, at least for the first part of this video. I'll do more next week, just because, you know, this guy, like I said, goes on for an hour and a half, and I cut up and ended up with, I think, 20 minutes or something like that. So I'm going to end it there. I just tried to put my key points in that I'm trying to help people understand and get information across that's going to help you understand why what you're being told to do is just wrong. And if you're like me, I got better things to do with my money. And this is why I used to watch Yard Brawl all the time. I still watch him just because I want to hear the BS he's putting out. But I don't take any of his advice. In fact, when I listen to him now, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. He's creating his own fertilizer product line, and it's a triple. And it's basically a product that you shouldn't even be putting down just because of the regulations, probably in your state. If you're in Washington, definitely regulated. If you're in Florida, definitely regulated. I haven't checked all the other states, but Maryland, Massachusetts, there's a lot of states that have high regulation on phosphorus. So that was what I wanted to help you guys understand. Not only that using phosphorus is regulated in a lot of states, but there's no need for it. The grass isn't gonna, it's not gonna solubilize into the grass. The grass isn't gonna absorb it, isn't gonna take it up, isn't gonna use it, you know, whether it's sitting there or not. You know, and on top of that, you probably don't even need phosphorus, because phosphorus is naturally created in your soil. It's a natural byproduct of just the environment, whether it's rain, the soil, the microbes in the soil. I watched a great video on phosphorus on how it becomes available. I'm not going to go into it because it's kind of funny. It was just a cartoon. But you probably don't need phosphorus. And even if you're on low on phosphorus, you probably still don't need it. But if your grass is showing signs that you need to add phosphorus, you need to add phosphorus. Do a soil test. But don't do a soil test just because you want to do it twice a year because that's what everybody tells you to do. People are making money off of that stuff. And if you're doing an ion resin type of soil test, worthless. I'm actually going to go into soil tests in another video, because I'm actually doing 3 soil tests with 3 different companies to show you the comparison of the exact same dirt samples and the differences in the results you're going to get. One you can trust, one you can't. So I'm going to go into that. And he didn't even talk about potassium. He touched on it a little bit, but you know what? Potassium is probably going to create more damage to your lawn than it's going to do help. A lot of people say you need to add potassium to help heat stress and prevent heat stress, and it doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. What potassium does, though, is when heat stress starts happening, potassium helps the microbes in your soil create an enzyme that your turf grass is going to take up to help it defend against the stress it's going under. Other than that, it's never going to use it. And as long as potassium is soluble in your soil and your plant can, use it, that's all you need. Even if it's you have a low potassium, your grass is still going to be able to utilize that nutrient and the microbes that's producing the enzyme to help defend against heat stress. And like he said, potassium is probably going to create more damage to your lawn than it's going to prevent. And the funny part about this, before I move on, is a lot of these lawn care channels talk about fighting off fungus and spraying out for fungus, preventing fungus, and doing all these sorts of things. Yardbra especially, he gets disease. It seems like every other episode he's talking about some disease in his lawn. And he doesn't realize that probably what he's doing in his lawn with the amount of potassium he's adding is creating that environment that his grass needs to do these diseases. I mean, people are spraying out fungicides, propiconazole and azoxystrobin, I believe it is, just as a preventative to help prevent disease. If you don't create the environment for disease, you don't need to prevent it. So that's just my take on it. I have some propiconazole. I haven't even used it. I bought it a year ago. I've never seen a reason to have to use it in my lawn. I don't use it as a preventative or anything like that, but I have it in case something does happen. I can put it down. So anyways, enough about that. I apologize. I'm not angry about being lied to, but I don't like being lied to. And I just feel like when I first started doing my lawn, everything I was putting in it, I was stressing out. I was like, oh my God, I'm out of whatever. And I got to go buy it. Oh my God, Amazon can't deliver it for 4 days. And, I would start freaking out on not having the products. And then I realized I'm freaking out for no reason. Anyways, I'm going to put this, do this pH thing real quick. This is just going to take a quick second. So this sample right here is coming in at, it's got to stabilize, but this is 6.7. And this one was my backyard. 6.75. It looks like it's pretty much stabilized. So that's actually pretty good. I haven't tested my backyard. Oh God, here's my front yard. Dropping. So I've been using urea, and I told you urea helps raise your pH. My last pH test I did when I did my soil testing, and then I also did my at-home test, was 5.8. That was my pH. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can zoom in. So I'm at like a 6.0. So I've managed to raise it, I believe, a 1.5. And this is probably just due to not using as much iron, because my iron has sulfur in it, and sulfur is going to lower your pH. And I don't add any kind of ammonium sulfate. I switched over to the urea, because the urea, I said, is going to help. So this is my neighbor's soil, and look, he's at 5.9, and I just started applying some urea to him, and I told him he needs to start applying urea to help raise his pH level. Because I don't know if you remember or not, with him, I had redid his yard because of moss. Well, grubs too, but moss for the most part. And I didn't know what his pH level was. So when I thought about doing this, I thought about going in and testing it to see. So it might have been a little bit lower, because I added new soil, new topsoil, and all that to his his yard. So that might have helped out. But a low pH in the 5s is definitely helping the environment for moss to grow. And with the shade and all the wet and cold we get in the winter times, that's just the perfect conditions for moss. So I'm trying to help him to defeat that. Iron is a good thing to defend against moss. So I wanted to go over this here regarding the tinfoil turfgrass episode. I wasn't able to bring this up before, and so I'm trying to bring it up now to help you. Hold on, let me find the page here so I can scroll on it. Well, that's not it. Well, that's just crazy. I thought I had it right here. Oh, there it is. Well, whatever. So this paper here was what I was trying to show last week, or in the last episode that I did a couple weeks ago. This is the checkoff list for turfgrass BS disorder. And it says right up here, and it's the criteria. And what it is when people start talking about things on this list here, if you check off 3 boxes, you're listening to somebody who's just BSing you. And there's a lot of good information on here. I don't know how come I can't bring this up. It should just be right here, sorry. Oh well. Anyways, I just wanted to show you that. I have that, it's right here. I'm gonna move on. So I'm spraying 2 different types of iron here. Okay. You got people out there talking about Neighbor's Envy. And oh my God, it's such a great product, and it's making my lawn so green. I mean, I could see it turning green in front of my eyes and all that kind of stuff. And this comes back to being BS. There's reasons why certain products turn your yard green. And I talked about it before. Iron is a key product to put in your lawn to make it green. Iron, nitrogen, sulfur, manganese. Those 4 things are all you need to make your yard green. All this other stuff that people tell you to put in your yard has nothing to do with its response to color. Nothing. So they can put all the humic, all the seaweed, all the phosphorus, all the potassium, nickel, boron, zinc, you name it. You could put all these things in a product. They're not going to do anything to your lawn to help it turn green. Look here. That's samples of my sprayed area there. It's just 5 different angles, views. I have the sticks there to kind of help you maybe see what they are. But this is when I applied it that same day. And actually that wasn't, I'm sorry, we've gone a couple of days here. I went on vacation, so I wasn't here to take pictures. I'm working on making my backyard nicer, greener, and I'm also cutting it shorter. But after I mowed it, it went from you couldn't see it to now you could see it again. And we're at almost 2 weeks now. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow that I applied that iron, and look at June 30th. You can still see the patches there. This is time-lapse video, so you can just kind of see the progression. The grass is growing and all that kind of stuff. Kind of can't see it. Oh, look, I mowed. You can see it again. And this is 2 different iron products I used when I sprayed. The one I'm spraying right there is the liquid I got from, I believe it's Southern AG. I got it down here. Let me see. Yeah, so this is the stuff that's over here on the, right over here. Right, that's that right there. Oh, you can't even see it because it's green. It's chelated iron, liquid iron from Southern AG. It's got sulfur in it. Hey, that's going to turn your grass green. And it's got iron in it. That's going to turn your grass green. It says it's derived from iron sulfate, iron lignin sulfate. It's got a chelated agent in the, I don't know what this is, lignin sulfate, sulfonate. And any liquid iron product you put on your yard is going to turn your grass green. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's a liquid. If you put down a granular iron product like he talked about, you're not going to get a response from it. If you get a greening response from any other iron product you put down, you need to look at the bag. It's probably going to have sulfur. It's going to have nitrogen, probably ammonium sulfate, manganese, all those sorts of things. Those are the things that are turning your grass green. Potassium, not doing it. Phosphorus, not doing it. Humic acid, not doing it. Seaweed, not doing it. All those products, we're not going to really get into it today, but research, documented research papers, studies, everything like that has pretty much proven that these products don't add anything extra into your soil for any kind of greening response. And a lot of them really don't even do anything. The grass doesn't even take it up, utilize it, or anything like that. All those products. Sorry about that. So this is just the comparison I did. I'm working on my backyard to try to get it to green up more, thicken up more. I've never really done much in my backyard. This year I'm working on it. I actually have it cut extra low. I'm kind of cutting it at the same height as I'm cutting my front yard. All my yards last week were cut at 1/2 inch. Yesterday or on the 4th of July, I cut them down to their normal heights. because I did the iron application, but I also was out of town for not quite a week, but I was out of town. So I wasn't here to mow, and I didn't mow before I left. I just let it grow. And it actually looks really great. We're gonna look at it here in just a second. So I'm gonna move on from iron. I just wanted to show you this comparison here. This is only iron that I added here. I didn't add any nitrogen. I didn't add any other product to it. I don't believe that I can't remember now. The iron product that I use, I don't believe it has iron in it. I know it has sulfur and it has manganese. I don't believe it has any nitrogen, but I could be wrong. It might have a little bit. But this is basically just an iron product that I applied here on both sides. And the liquid that I just showed you from Southern AG iron, it didn't have any nitrogen, did it? I can't remember now. Oh, it does. I'm sorry. It has some chelated iron. I'm sorry. It has a little bit of iron. But anyways, iron and nitrogen going to green your lawn anyways. Sulfur, those sorts of things. So I wanted to help you understand there is no miracle product making your yard green. There's no miracle product making your yard green in 10 minutes. There's no miracle. There's no miracle to it at all. A lot of it has to do with staining. You know, your grass can't take up that iron that fast to turn green. It's going to take half a day, 24 hours for your grass to start reacting to the actual iron or any kind of fertilizer that you're putting down. It's not going to react instantly like this. I mean, these videos here, these pictures of me spraying, when I take these mats off, those pictures are immediately after I sprayed it. It's not 2 hours later. It's not even after I watered it. It's basically immediately after I finished spraying my yard, I took these mats off. It was maybe 10 minutes after I sprayed it. And you know, I did my, let's see here. Here's the Extreme Green label. So Extreme Green, it does have, this is the iron product I've been using. It does have iron in it. Well, I thought I had a, no, that's not it, sorry. Oh, this is it right here. So I did this video back in April, and this is basically the same thing I was showing you. As I'm spraying it, you know, you can see the greening happening live as it's happening. So enough about iron for this week. I mean, I'll probably talk about it more in the future. Get on to something really important, your sprinklers. Look at this, I got back from California and my neighbor Wilson came over to me. He's like, hey man, I noticed one of your sprinklers was stuck. And I tried to get it moving, but it's just stuck. So I went out there and I messed with it, I played with it, and sure enough, it was stuck. So a couple of important things about why I'm showing you replacing the sprinkler. First, do you notice that the sprinkler head is not in my grass? It's not in my yard. To me, this is really important in your thought process when you're starting to map out your yard and you want to put sprinklers down and you want to get it all set up. If your sprinklers aren't in your grass, when you have a problem like this, it's really easy to fix. Look, I could just dig this up, yank this sprinkler out, and just watch really quickly. I'm going to pull this head out and I'm going to put the new one on. The water is spewing out. And the other key point I want to make is when I dug this hole, I took every effort possible to make sure that I dug below the sprinkler connector into the pipe, because I knew water was going to come out of that. This is actually a low point in my sprinkler system, so I knew as soon as I took that head off, that water was going to start spewing up out of it. Now, it's good for water to spew up out of it because it's going to keep stuff out of the line. But if your dirt level that you've dug your hole down to is even with that pipe, as the water comes up, what's going to happen is it's going to start mixing with the dirt. It's going to get dirt in it, and then dirt can get back into your pipe and into your system. And now you've just created more of a mess. So my only point here in repairing the sprinkler is A, it's very important that you watch your sprinklers to know what's going on. Of course, this thing broke when I was on vacation. And that's when everything happens. You come back and you notice some brown spots or whatever, and you're like, what's going on? I had my sprinklers on, my timer was on, everything was working, and I got brown spots, from lack of water. And then you come to find out, sprinkler's dead. So that's why water is one of the first things you need to check if you start having an issue in your yard with browning and that sort of stuff. Maybe it's lack of water. Maybe there's some sort of problem. Maybe a pipe broke, sprinkler broke, whatever the case may be. But there's an actual pyramid to help diagnose and look for problems in your grass, where to start and where to end up. And the fifth thing in this process is fertilizer. You don't even want to look at fertilizer as a problem in your yard until you've eliminated water, light, pest damage, conditions, those sorts of things. I mean, those are probably going to be what is making your yard have issues. Fertilizer is probably the last thing you're going to need to look at. So this is actually a 1/2-inch mow right here when I got back. And I've mowed it lower now, which basically kind of scalped it, but whatever. But this is my Kentucky bluegrass. It's looking really good. I did that. This is the bent grass, and that's actually a 1/2 inch right there too. That actually looks really terrible right now. I cut it down to the 2 mil, and it didn't like it. It's basically like scalping it. To cut it from a 1/2 inch down to 3. I forget what 3 or 4 millimeters I cut it down to. And it basically scalped it. So it's going to take a week or so to repair it. And I'm just having some issues in general on my putting green. I'm not going to get into it. So I told you I had a problem with my bed knife. I had taken up a rock, and then I actually took up a mole trap. So I just have a lot of bad luck with my reel mower here. Rocks and all these sorts of things you just don't see in your yard. And so I got a new bed knife, and I replaced it before I went on vacation. This was a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple of important points here that I definitely wanted to make. These bolts here, I don't know if you can see there, but there's like some star washers, and there's like a collar that was on that bolt. Let's see, I think I already have them taken out there. I'm going to show it again. Okay, there's a reason why there's all these extra star washers and these collars and spacers and things like that on these bolts. And it's going to have to do with your reel. It's basically just a spacer that McLean uses to keep the bolt shaft from going in too far and hitting against your reel as it spins. If you look in the inside of your reel where these bolts come through, you'll see, I can't remember if I got a picture of it or not, but that's why those are there, and that's why some have more than others. And if you put those bolts in the wrong spot, you're going to find out really quick that you did it wrong. And you're going to scratch your head and go, why is my reel not turning? What's it hitting on? And you're going to look in there, and it's really hard to see what's going on. And then you're going to realize, oh, it's hitting that bolt. Why is it hitting that bolt? What did I do wrong? So here you go, right here. See all those star washers? And there's that collar right there too. The collar just helps it so it sits in perfectly in its spot there, holding the bed knife, in the right spot. And of course, whenever you replace your bed knife, you're going to have to adjust the bed knife to reel. And I do that in this video too. I also did a backlapping in this video. And here, I'm just basically showing you the process. The bed knife was so easy. It was just those 3 bolts. There's 3 on each side. You take those bolts out. The bed knife's going to slide down. You're going to slide the new one back in. And the only important thing was you want to put the top bolt on first. There's 3 bolts in a triangle. There's 2 towards the bottom, and then there's 1 up higher. I guess I don't have a picture here to show. I've already gone past it, but you want to put the top bolt in first, and then the 2 bolts that are next to each other, you want to put those in last because they have more play and more slop in the holes to align the bed knife. And you're probably going to have to adjust your reel so that it's higher, because with that new bed knife, you're probably not going to have enough clearance to get those bolts in, because your bed knife's going to hit your reel. And yeah, you can't see in that picture where that bolt comes out. But those are the points that I really wanted to make with the bed knife. And any kind of repair you ever do on anything, you always got to put the bolts back in the same hole, even if they're all the same. I always have a habit of putting the same bolt in the same hole. That's just the way I am. Although when I did this bed knife, I did not do that, because that's how I found out the importance of those spacers and washers. I had actually reversed those 2 bolts on the bottom, and my reel wasn't spinning, and that was why. So I learned a lot this last time I did my bed knife, because I had pulled my bed knife off before, and I followed my rules, so I didn't have that problem. But last time I did it, I swapped the bolts out, and yeah, the reel was hitting the bolt holding the bed knife in. Let's see. Yeah, so here I'm just setting up for backlapping. Try to get out of the way here. Oh, I think that's why you can't see it. There, that's a little better. So I have the kit to do the backlapping. It looks like I did a really terrible job editing this video. No, I know what the other problem is here. I didn't adjust mine. So this is the backlapping process here. I've got my reverser on, and I'm just I'll just get out of the way here. Just using a paintbrush and some lapping compound here to apply to the reel as it's spinning. So one of the things, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this here, because I've obviously screwed this one up. So one of the things when you're doing the backlapping and the kit that I have, it reverses the chain and the blade. So what I do is I can start the engine, get it running, and I have a clamp that holds the clutch lever in to get it spinning, and then I can sit and hold the paintbrush and paint the lapping compound, or just apply the lapping compound on the blade while it's spinning, and I can just stand back and let it spin and do its thing for about 10 minutes. And that's about what I do. I do two. Here's the bolts again. So that one right there is the one I'm talking about. You want to install that one first when you're replacing this bed knife. This is the second go around on this video. So that's the bed knife, backlapping. It's a pretty simple process. I know I had my video kind of wrong, but see if I can get a picture of the. I never even saw that there. This is me doing the paper test. Loosen the bed knife. So this is where I'm actually attaching the reversing kit. So yep, that's the reversing kit. I've shown it before. I have another video on this. I just kind of went over it and did it again. This is my safety board here. It's got these stoppers in the front that just kind of prevent the mower from moving all over the place, especially when I have the mower on. You know, if by some chance the drive wheel happen to make contact with the ground, you know, it's not going to just run off. That board's going to kind of hold it in place. It's just, I guess you could kind of say, a safety mechanism. So I did some mowing. You know, I'm real mowing my backyard, and I'm starting to like it, but you know, I've never really mowed my backyard at a really low cut. And I have some issues in my backyard. You know, I have some areas, I don't really show it in this here. I think I have a drone video that might show it. But so I have an area of my backyard that kind of slopes upward where my Bermuda grass is. And I could probably just show that Bermuda grass real quick. And it was kind of a fail in my design. And that doesn't really show it, but the towards the end here. Let's see. So yeah, down here, let's see. Right down here. So this slopes up, and my shed's up here. And when I was using my regular rotary mower down here, yeah, I was having a problem. It was bottoming out and it was grinding up the I just don't show it in this video, but I also have the slope in my new area of my yard that's back over here by the fence. It's more up right in that area. And yeah, my rotary mower is just bottoming out and digging it up, and I have some, you know, spots that are totally scalped from my rotary mower. And then on top of that, with the real mower, with the drive wheel, sometimes the drive wheel catches because of the angle of the slope and all that stuff, and it tears the grass up. The grass is so new. So that whole thought that I had there of doing, so there you can see that. See that little slope right over here? This right here is what I'm talking about. You can see the kind of scalped area there. Yeah, so that was a fail in planning. I just was trying to make a grass path to go up to my shed. I really wasn't doing it for any other reason than to make a path going up there. I probably should have used stepping stones and maybe made steps or something like that. I don't know. I'll probably rethink that. But that's my failed area of my backyard for sure. Everything else in my backyard is doing pretty good. I did notice that I had turned my sprinklers down because it got kind of cool a couple weeks ago, and I turned my sprinklers timers down, and then it got warm and I never turned my sprinkler timers back up. And my backyard, I came back from vacation and I noticed it was looking a little weak, and I realized that my sprinklers were barely going back there. For hardly any time at all. I really wasn't doing anything. I still have some seed back there that I'm trying to keep moist, but it wasn't running long enough, so my backyard grass was starting to dry out. So that I've turned the water up and it's starting to recover. Let's see here. So you pretty much saw my backyard in the other. This is my front yard. When I mowed it, there was a lot of grass coming up off of it. And I used my rotary mower. So, just going to close it out here with, I put the hole back in, the putting green. Sorry for running long here. It seems like I always have something I mess up when I'm setting this up. I'm no technical guru. I don't understand all this stuff. I wing it almost every weekend I do this. And I do have a new camera going, which I thought was going to die on me, freeze my screen and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't. So I'll put my hole in, my putting green. You can see my grass is cut nice and short. All the tools I use to put the hole in. I got my hole cutter, I got my cup setter, I got my cup puller, got a flag, all that kind of stuff, and then I got some putty. So my new hole position is on the uphill. Before I had it on the downhill, so you got to hit the ball a little harder here to get it to get in the hole. But I made a few shots the other day. I was just out there testing it, seeing how it was going. It's moving pretty good. So I just wanted to give you that little short example there of that. Oh yeah, that was really great to go out to see that launch. I mean, although it was so foggy, we were not able to see it. We could hear it. So, and we were as close as you could be as an observer for that launch, and it was great. It was great So anyways, that's what I got for this week. I just wanted to show you guys some info, some things to do, some tips on sprinklers, pH testing, and then of course the iron. You know, I'm just tired of hearing all this stuff about these miracle products that are making your lawn green in front of your eyes. And you know, the fact that these guys probably know that it's just the iron and the staining and that sort of stuff that's actually turning your lawn green. But I just wanted to show you. That's two different products I used in doing that comparison. And you know, that's all it is. There's no trick, there's no magic. I'll just show you one last time. Man, I didn't even realize I did the spraying part for so long. So, like I said, it's pretty much right after. And you can even see that it's kind of turned some areas of my lawn a little bit dark, like black, but it's actually, you can see down into the grass because I mowed my lawn really short here and it wasn't ready to be cut that short. It's a little thin. And look at that, it's a week later. And look, a week later, you're still seeing, I added nitrogen a couple days after this. And that's what's kind of helping, you know, fill in some of these patches, changing the color a little bit, but it's not changing it like the iron did. So there's no miracle to greening your lawn. It's probably just something in the product you're using, and it's not all the products combined that are doing it. It's iron, nitrogen, sulfur, manganese. Those are the only things you'll ever need to use to make your lawn green. You want to use all the other stuff, go ahead and buy it from whoever you want. That's up to you. Anyways, I'll show some more of the tin foil turf grass next week on Yard Bra, because there's a lot of stuff that he says that you just shouldn't be listening to. But he does great videos. He's very entertaining if you like that sort of thing. But you know, I will never get any of his viewers to watch one of my videos, because you know, once you start watching somebody and you believe in what they say, no one's ever going to change their mind. His 100,000 subscribers or whatever he has, you will never convince any of those guys that Yard Bra doesn't know what he's talking about. You won't, because they're sheep at this point, because they see what his lawn is and they have that whole fallacy of what he's doing obviously works. And you know what? I'm just trying to show you why what he's doing isn't the reason why it works. So do what you need to do, save some money, make your yard look great, cut it low. That's what I prefer. But if you want to do 2 inches, 2 inches is great too. You can have a great looking lawn. Come back next week and I'll have some more information for you on some great things you can do to save money in your yard and make it look great.